The fundamental building block of change in enterprise data management is the request. At a basic level, requests are records of changes to data objects in a view, and when you submit a request, changes are committed to the affected data objects. You can use request workflows to define a collaborative evaluation process for changes to enterprise data proposed through submitted requests. Request workflows empower multiple users to concurrently participate using a policy-driven, inference-based workflow engine. You configure one or more policies at the application, dimension, hierarchy set, or node type level, and the workflow engine orchestrates the invitation of approvers while executing approval policies concurrently to achieve high-quality outcomes. Policies at the application or dimension level tend to be broad, applying settings to all enterprise data in an application or to all data in a dimension. Policies at the node type or hierarchy set level are more granular for reviewing and implementing a finer level of change. You can implement 3 types of policies: approval, commit, and notification. Approval policies specify who can review and take action on requests. Static approval policies let you invite specific users or user groups to approve changes, either in serial or in parallel. Dynamic approval policies invite approvers based either on an ownership property assigned to nodes being changed or based on the management hierarchy of the request owner. Depending on the contents of a submitted request, the appropriate approval policies become effective, and invitations to participate in the review are sent to approvers. Commit policies provide an extra level of review before committing changes and enforce a segregation of duties between approvers and final commit. While you can specify multiple users on a commit policy, only one commit action is required to fulfill each policy. Notification policies let application or dimension owners notify users when a request changes to a specific status during the workflow. For example, you can configure policies to notify users when the request status is changed to in-flight, completed, or consolidated. In addition to the request content, the request priority setting and policy filters play important roles in determining which policies apply in the workflow. You can set a request priority of low, medium, or high. For example, a request with no priority setting may trigger 2 approval policies and a commit policy, but the same request with a high priority may skip the approval policies and only require the commit policy based on policy filters in the approval policies. You can also use policy filters to selectively apply policies by action type, for example, adds versus moves versus deletes, by update property, by hierarchy location, and by how the request was created, for example, interactive versus subscription versus consolidation. Workflows move requests through 4 stages: submit, approve, commit, and closed. The approve and commit stages are enabled only when your changes affect data objects with defined approval and commit policies. Let's look at what happens during each stage of a request workflow. In the submit stage, the request owner authors the request by drafting content, adding and deleting items, and attaching files. To ensure data is complete and provided in a timely fashion, an owner can invite others by email to collaborate. Collaborating authors can dynamically communicate using comments and conversation threads. The owner can assign the request to another user who then becomes the new owner. The submit stage is also when the owner can set the request priority. When the request is complete, the request owner submits it for approval. If necessary, submitted requests can be recalled, modified, and then resubmitted, or deleted if they're no longer needed. In the approve stage, the approval policies in effect are determined dynamically based on request content, request priority, and policy filters. Approvers are invited by email to participate in the review. Approvers can also access requests from their request activity list. Approvers can enrich requests by adding or modifying items, collaborate using comments and threads, approve and reject requests, and push back requests if submitters need to make changes. When the request is resubmitted, the list of approvers is refreshed based on the content of the revised request. In the commit stage, committers are notified by email to commit requests. While reviewing the request, committers can view and add comments and attachments. No changes can be made to the request items during the commit stage. Committers can commit the request, which commits changes and closes the request, reject the request, which closes the request without applying changes, or push back the request to the submitter so it can be updated and resubmitted. This effectively resets the request workflow to the submit stage. Request workflows can be paused by application or dimension blockout periods. The blockout period pauses the request workflow just before the closed stage, and all requests are held there with a blocked status. When the blockout period ends, all blocked requests are completed and closed. Requests can also be future dated. Future dated requests enable you to make changes now that won't be applied until a specified point in the future. When a future dated request is submitted, it goes through the normal request workflow. When all policies are fulfilled, the request is held with a status of future dated until the date and time in the request's time label is reached. You can consolidate in-flight requests for the same view. Consolidating requests returns the consolidated request to the submit stage and restarts the workflow, dynamically using policies that apply to consolidated requests. One use case for request consolidation is to periodically collect granular change request submissions by end users into a single request that must be approved by a governance committee. Another use case is to consolidate future dated requests with the same time label as a method to aggregate related changes for visualization against the target viewpoint, but still ensure that the changes will be committed together at a later date. Because a single request can trigger multiple approval, commit, and notification policies, you can assign a policy order to approval and commit policies. Policy order gives you a way to fulfill a group of approval or commit policies before moving on to the next sequential group of policies. The Policies tab in the Request Inspector displays the Policy Execution Plan diagram with all policies related to the request. Policy order is from top to bottom, and workflow stages from left to right. This information can help you visualize complex governance scenarios for requests. At design time for a draft request, during runtime for an in-flight request, or for a closed request, you can identify which policies are in effect for the workflow and what their fulfillment status is. To learn more, visit docs.oracle.com.